Hey everyone, Matt here on another edition of Ask Ron. Ron, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I got up this morning just fine.
Good, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few questions for us today, so let's go ahead and jump right into them. The first one we have is from Robert, who's in Oregon. Robert says, "Hi, I'm Robert and I am new to the Gold Club. I have a question for you. With all the buying and leasing of houses, will this eventually turn me into a landlord? I ask because I am not sure if I want to go that way. I believe you once said that you abhor the way of investing slash living."
All right. Well, first of all, Robert, you can't put a tenant buyer in a house without being a landlord. But there's a difference between being a landlord to tenant buyers and a landlord to tenants. Okay. Two totally different worlds, man. I lived in the landlord with tenants for a long time. And trust me, as soon as you make that switch and start getting big multi-thousand-dollar deposits out of people and put the repairs on them and treat them like owners and they think like owners, totally different world. I've been doing lease options for a long time right now, and there are no landlord headaches. Okay. They pay the rent. And if they don't pay the rent, then they forfeit their big deposit. That's what makes them so easy to work with. They got skin in the game, because if they don't pay their rent, they lose that money. They don't get it back, clearly disclosed and signed off on in front of an attorney. So they know if they move, they lose that. And of course, they know if they don't pay the rent, they're going to lose it anyway. And in addition to that, I don't get calls to unplug toilets and all the things that you hear stories about from landlords. So I got lease option tenant buyers that have been in my house for 12 years or more. And only thing we hear from them is when they send the rent, and they know better than to call us to do any kind of repairs. That's a beautiful business. It's totally different than being a landlord. You want to be a landlord, Robert. You want to get as many of those tenant buyers as you possibly can, as long as you do it with non-recourse debt, which means you don't go down to the bank and guarantee the debt. You want millions of dollars worth of properties with tons and tons of tenant buyers in them.
All right, Robert has another question, and he says,
okay,
are there any Ron Legrand real estate groups throughout the United States?
There are not any real estate groups that are named after me. There's a ton of real estate groups that I work with. And in fact, there's a few that I even helped form. But most any real estate group will know my name, but I don't really have any connection with them other than that. And we joint venture on something from time to time.
All right. Moving to the next question, we have Daniel in Louisiana. Daniel says, from what we're taught, it seems that regardless whether the homeowner or seller is a licensed agent or not, before a Gold Club student can proceed with a purchase sale agreement, any listing of the property must be removed. Is that correct?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I understand that question, because whether the seller is licensed or not is totally irrelevant to us buying or lease optioning the house from them. We don't deal with realtors in the terms of the pretty house business, so I'm not sure how that got into your head. And if sometimes a realtor might send us over a deal, but we don't pay full commission for that. We find out what they have in mind before we even look at it, but that's even rare. So realtors and the terms business don't even go together. We deal only with FSBOs for sale by owners that are not listed. So licensing is totally irrelevant unless you are licensed, and then you have to disclose that you are licensed.
All right, there you go, Daniel. Moving on to the next question, we have Ellis in Pennsylvania. Go Birds. Ellis says, can acts be used when purchasing commercial real estate?
Well, sure. All acts is an assignment of contract. So any kind of a contract you have on anything, you can assign it. It's actually designed for assigning terms contracts, but in fact, a lot of commercial real estate is done just that way. All they do is put it in a contract and assign their contract.
Perfect. All right, Ellis, there you have it. The next question we have is from Adam, who's out in Nebraska.
Okay.
Adam says, hi, Ron. When calling no leads, can you give an example of how to approach this call and transition into the no script after the initial introduction? What is the main goal here, and how much time should be spent on these suspects?
Well, Adam, there is no longer a no script. That has been replaced with what's called the closing script. And if we read the first couple of paragraphs of that, it'll answer your question. In fact, I'll do that with you right now, Matt. You're the seller. All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm calling you back. Hey, Matt, this is Ron. I'm calling you back about the house you discussed with my assistant yesterday. You got a minute?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, look, my information here is that you said that you would not be interested in letting us make your payments until we pay you off. So does that mean that you have to have all your cash when you sell, or can you talk about other options other than cash?
I would prefer that, but if you have other ideas.
So you're telling me you can't sell unless you get all your money?
Yes, that's what I'm really looking for.
All right. So what if I did pay you all cash? What's the least you could accept? You're going to give me an answer, and I'm going to say, is that the best you can do? And that's the end of that conversation, most likely, because if you got a nice house in a nice neighborhood, you're not going to want to discount that thing down far enough to where I'm going to buy it and pay cash. However, what if I've got you on the phone and you got a house that needs a lot of work that you inherited or whatever, and it needs a total rehab? Now we're in a totally different ballpark, but we'll know that because that'll be right on the information sheet that the VAs call out and get. So now when I make the call, I know I'm going to start with a terms question, but then I know they're going to go to, I want all cash. And now, since the house is ugly, they're already asking way below value. If I get them down below that, I proceed as if it's a cash deal. Now, if you said, yes, I'll listen to terms or options, other options, the closing call script has all kinds of reasons they might consider not taking all cash. And when we get to the bottom of that, and it says, so would you be interested in talking about that? And if they say yes, we go right to the $3 million questions. What's the least, if we do agree upon terms, what's the least you could take for the house? Followed by, is that the best you can do? And then we usually buy with nothing down, okay. And followed by the payment question. I assume you're okay if I make your payments till we pay you off in full. Those three questions are the whole purpose for the call. And our whole purpose for the front part of the call is get to that part of the call if the seller lets us. And then when we ask those three questions, we're going to know whether we need to go out to the house or not based on their answers. And that means you probably need to get a little training here, because I'm sure you understand about half of what I said. That's what the Quick Start School is all about. Making you be able to generate leads, handle them properly, and then follow up on them when you get good answers. Both pretty and ugly houses.
Mm-hmm. Adam, get to the Quick Start School.
And I don't know, is the closing script on the Go Club site yet? I think it is.
I believe it is too.
Go on the site under resources and just put in the search box the closing script.
Mm-hmm.
See if it comes up. That's what it's called. Handles both pretty or ugly.
That's right. All right, moving on to the next question. It's from Cecil, who is in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Cecil says, if I get a homeowner to owner finance on a lease option contract with simple interest on a 3-year lease, does the homeowner have to report the interest?
That is a question that is not the real question. Okay, so let's start from scratch. If I'm buying with owner financing, that has nothing to do with a lease option. Okay, I'm either buying with owner financing or I'm leasing with an option to buy. I'm not doing both. And so if I'm doing lease optioning from the seller, there is no interest, there is no principal. It's called rent that I'm paying the seller. If I'm owner financing, now I have principal and interest. And the answer to your question is the seller will have to pay income taxes on the interest, but you get to deduct the interest you pay the seller, and you have to claim the rent that you collect. But it's going to be pretty much a wash from the seller or to the seller. So, and the seller has, when that seller deeds you that property, they have no more interest in that property except the note you owe them. When they sign the deed and hand it to your attorney, you own the property. They can't, there ain't a thing they can do as long as you're making the payments, okay? But when I'm lease optioning the property, I don't own it. I walk out of the house with a lease option agreement signed. I'm done. There is no closing till I'm ready to put a tenant buyer in the house. It's already done. But I still don't own the house, but I have total control of the house. In Texas now, you better make sure that you're using a good attorney if you want to do either one of those two things. And I strongly suggest you use Scott Horn out of Dallas, who clearly understands this business and taught me the Texas rules. Scott Horn. He told me he charges $750 for a closing, regardless of whether it's in or out, unless it's owner financing. If it's owner financing, it can cost you a lot more, and I'd rather have him explain that to you than me. But they collect that from the tenant buyers when they put them in the house. And some people in Texas sell with owner financing. So either way, the costs are part of the closing cost. So don't get scared away when he tells you it's going to cost $3,000 or $4,000 to purchase a house with owner financing, because it is. And you'll see why when you talk to him.
Perfect. There you go, Cecil. All right, our next question is from Tony and Angie Stewart, who are in Ohio.
Okay.
They say, on a previous video, how to use a VA, you mentioned that you need to have at least 10 to 20 seller leads being processed by your VA weekly to have a deal per week. I know every market is different, but do you still feel that this is still accurate?
Well, listen, the more leads you get coming across your desk, the better chance you got of getting deals. And, I was just saying that you ought to have 10 leads a week coming across, but not just from us, not just from the Gold Club. Okay. The Gold Club is your lowest common denominator of leads. These are just people who list their house online. I want you to get out there and generate some quality leads to get sellers calling you. That's where a lot of your deals are going to come from. Now, look, I know you get leads every day if they're available in your city on your Gold Club, but you cannot sit around and only use those leads and get lazy. You got to go generate some leads of your own. And some of those are going to cost money, incidentally. In fact, the good ones are going to cost money for the most part. However, to defend the leads on the Gold Club, we just did a boot camp here last week or week before. We only got about 40 to 45 people on the telephone because I had two mentors calling for 2 days. You ain't going to get more than 50% of the people to pick up the phone after 3 tries. And then, of course, you're limited down to a 2-day block. It even makes the logistics worse. But we got about 45 people on the phone. We did 9 deals, and they were all Gold Club leads. So that just goes to show you there's a lot of money in them, but there's a lot of aggravation and grief in them too, because most people are not going to do business with you. And you got to make a lot more calls with a Gold Club lead than you do with actually somebody contacting you. So do everything you can to get them contacting you. Now, if you've been in my boot camp, I spent the whole last half of the first day on that. And then we just recently taped a whole new course on generating quality leads, where I actually interviewed the companies that produce the leads for you. So you got a variety of them to pick from. So get your head around quality leads. Okay. I don't want anybody sitting there waiting for the Gold Club to supply all the leads for their business, because it'll frustrate you and you'll be out of the business very quickly. It's just a bonus. Okay. It's not what you run your business on, but I'm telling you, there's deals in those leads as well, but you got to, call more of them. And if you don't want to make the call, get somebody to make the calls for you. Put the script in their hands, practice a little bit, make sure that, you feel that they're comfortable with that, because all they're doing is paving the way. But there's 2 keys. Number 1 is quality leads, and number 2 is how you handle that closing call. Now, you got to get good at that. In fact, we have a whole new course on that called Mastering the Phone that we just took, Mastering the Closing Call, that I just did recently as well. And they're all in our office. And of course, as the master's program, as a master, I give them to you. So I don't know where you're at in our, what level you're at with us, but I'm trying to keep up with the times, and I'm replacing everything that I've already done. Again, I just recorded the new terms course this last week, and I recorded a new wholesaling course just last week. And I'm sitting here at my desk working on a work for equity course right now, because it's been years since it's been upgraded. And I'm looking through it. I'm asking myself, my gosh, why aren't you doing more of these things, man? This is good stuff. In other words, putting people in the houses without you touching them. They do the work with their money and their labor and getting almost retail price for it. And I did a lot of those back when, and I kept on doing a few of them every year since. But I look back, I got 2 or 3 tenants right now that I put in my houses on work for equity that have been there over 10 years. So I love work for equity. I don't have to touch the house. Anyway, that's another subject. I already forgot what the question was now, man.
Well, you already answered it earlier. Good thing.
Ah,
You already answered it earlier, so we're good.
I did. That's good. So there's an answer in there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
All right.
All right, moving on to the next one though.
Get me
It's
started
from
before you shut me up.
nah, gotta keep going.
All
All right,
right.
our next question's from Kaleem in Virginia.
Colleen, okay.
Kaleem says, "What questions should we ask when looking for a potential real estate agent?"
Well, Colleen, why are you looking for real estate agents? Because the only thing they're going to, the only reason you'd be looking for an agent is if you're looking to go into the MLS and pay cash for houses, or at least put them under contract and then wholesale them or retail them. If that is your intent, then I like finding the houses first and backing into the agents, which is all in my boot camp manuals, by the way, and it's also in my wholesale course, the old one and the new one. So let's say you run across a house that's ugly and vacant, and it's got a realtor sign in front of it. Okay, well, you just found that agent. You pick up the phone and you call them and you say something like this: "Hey, Mary, this is Ron Legrand, and I just drove by your house at 123 Main Street, and I'd like you to send me the listing sheet on it so I can get you an offer on it tomorrow. And by the way, Mary, if you got more like this, I got a ton of capital I need to get into the marketplace, and I was wondering if you could help me find some properties like this." And you leave your contact information. Okay, she'll probably call you because you do have a ton of cash. So don't shut your brain down. You got more cash than you can possibly use. You're just not sure whose bank account it's in right now. It's called private lenders. All right, we teach that as well. If you're going to do the all cash business, you're going to have to get private lenders. However, still nothing stopping you from putting them under contract and wholesaling them. But you better not let the realtor know that's what you're doing, or that realtor you'll lose. The other way is to talk to realtors and tell them what you're looking for and get them out looking for prospects for you. But frankly, I like the first way better, because any realtor's got a sign in front of an ugly vacant house is a realtor who deals with ugly vacant houses, and they know the business, and they can send you deals that aren't even listed yet once you get a relationship with them and after you prove yourself. Trust me, realtors are not hard to find, but again, they have nothing to do with the terms business, in or out. I also use realtors when I rehab a house to list it. And if you happen to do that, that may or may not even be, probably not going to be, because anybody that'll list that house and sell it to owner occupants is probably not the right kind of realtor for you. You're looking for REO realtors, realtors that sell bank repossessions, both listed, I mean, both owned by entities, but also there's a bunch of people that have listed their houses that have junkers in there as well. So in the past, I wasn't buying anything out of the MLS. There was a time when everything in there was just so high priced, it was a waste of my time. But that time is slowly reversing itself now, I think. I'm hearing things from students that they're getting deals out of the MLS. Of course, I haven't examined those deals, so I don't know for sure they're a deal or not. But I, in fact, am getting back into the MLS myself, because I have not been working that thing for about 3 years now, since that market went crazy on us. Waste of time. But I'm thinking it's coming back around, so I'm going to give it a shot. And I will tell you, the smaller town you live in, the more chance you've got of getting properties out of it, because there's a less competition fighting over the ones. And I've always said, the easier the house is to find, the more it's going to cost. And obviously anything in the MLS is easy to find. So anyway, I'll keep you posted as I go forward. Let's see if I can pull some deals. I mean, I'm doing deals, boy. I'll tell you, we bought probably 7 or 8 deals so far this year. Got a bunch more in the hopper. In fact, the first 2, and yes, I do wholesale deals too, okay? Because here's the way I'm thinking. If the property needs rehab, I've only got 2 choices. I wholesale it or I retail it, which means I got to rehab it first. I have nothing against rehabs. I've done a lot of them, done 1,000 of them, teaching them for a long time. And usually do 1 or 2 or 3 a year, but I don't really want to do any more than that, especially in these times going forward, when I don't know what the price is going to be by the time I get a rehab. And then we got all these other complications that come along with it. And the truth is, I sat down and I analyzed, if I wholesale this, I think I can get this blank out of it. If I rehab it, I can get more, but then I got all these costs in the middle that people tend to forget about, which is I teach in my real estate school. You better not forget those costs, because they don't show those on the so-called reality shows on TV, which there are no reality whatsoever in them. So if I can get anywhere near with a wholesale deal, that I can get rehabbing it in retail. And why on earth would I want to do the retail when I can sit here in 4 or 5 days, be done with this wholesaling deal and have a contract on it, which is exactly what happens. First 2 deals we did this year, I netted 40 on one, and I think 42, I think about $80,000 on the first 2 wholesale deals, for wholesale deals, not rehab deals. So when I can net 40 grand on a wholesale deal, I'm going to be very cautious about trying to rehab it. And I have no idea what brought that up, but there it is.
There it is.
What was the question anyway?
What are we looking for in potential real estate agents? But you already answered that earlier. So
okay, well, I didn't say that. When I rehab a house, I want to list it with a seller. I mean, with an agent, sell it, cash out of it. So when I buy them on terms, sell them on terms. When I buy them for cash,
right.
Sell them for cash. We got one that we bought at a foreclosure sale right now. I mean, right at the sale, $202,000 worth, about 3 1/4.
Nice.
But it needs about $50,000 worth of work on it. So I'm going to try to wholesale it. If I can't, I'm going to go ahead and renovate it and retail it.
There we go. All right, Ron, we got 2 questions left for the day, and they're both from Autumn, who's out in Washington.
Hey, Autumn.
Her first question is, can we write off all the payments we make on properties we own, or at least the interest?
You write off the interest, you don't write off the principal. You write off the interest and all the other expenses you spend on it, assuming you don't live in it now, okay? Everything you spend except principal is a write-off. Don't forget that depreciation. I love depreciation. Boy, you'd be surprised. You know, if I can buy a house and I can get I don't know, $20,000 a year write-off on it, and let's just say you're in the 25% tax bracket, which if you aren't in, you better get in pretty quick, because that's not a very high tax bracket. You realize that you just saved $5,000 that you don't have to send the IRS. I didn't say a $5,000 write-off. Okay, if I get a $20,000 write-off, which ain't much of a house, and you know, I'm in the 25% bracket, that's $5,000 I don't have to write. That's like getting $5,000 more rent out of that house. Don't sell depreciation short. So you want to be at all the properties you can, and residential is depreciated 27.5 years, and commercial is 39 years. But on the other hand, the commercial is probably a lot higher dollars. So remember, you get depreciation no matter how you buy the property. Whether you pay cash, whether you own or finance it, whether you go down to the bank and get a loan, you get to depreciate it as long as you get the deed. If you don't get the deed, you can't depreciate it, which means you can't depreciate houses you lease option from the seller.
All right. Last question of the day, Ron. Here it is. You ready?
Yeah, you just got me warmed up now, man.
All right. Autumn says, when you get new insurance on a wrap, is your LLC on your trust the name of the seller?
What? Is your LLC on the trust the name of the seller? What is that? That don't make any sense to me. But let me tell you how it works. Okay. When you buy a property from the seller, you're going to buy it in a land trust, hopefully. Okay. So at that time, you got to get your own insurance policy, because the seller is no longer more effective. When they sign that deed, that insurance does not apply to their house anymore, which most people do not know. And so if you think you're going to use theirs, you're not going to use theirs. You're going to have a big wake-up call if they find out the house transferred after a claim. Besides, a non-owner occupant policy is cheaper than an owner-occupied policy anyway. And first company you ought to call is NREIG. Write that down. NREIG. That's National Real Estate Insurance Group, something like that. Because they only insure non-owner occupied properties, and they don't care how you own them. So if you take title in a trust, that trust would be the insured on the property. And you might even you ask them, because frankly they don't care, probably want to add your name as well, but maybe not, I don't know. So you got to get a new policy, and you got to either get NREIG to try to cancel the one with the seller, or get the seller to cancel it. Either way, seller needs to cancel their policy now. Okay. And then you got to make sure that your insurance company gets them a copy of your new policy with your trust named as insured. All right. And that's another thing. if your trust is named as the insured, the lender might just assume that the seller put the property into a trust for estate planning purposes, and they cannot call the loan due because the property goes into a trust for estate planning purposes. They cannot call the loan due, and they know that. Now, of course, if they found out that the title actually transferred, they can, but we don't worry about the banks calling a loan due. The last thing they want is a house. They'd rather have COVID than a house, especially right now going forward. So you got to get insurance, and you don't have to pay maybe a whole year's premium, but remember that the escrow, the bank is collecting 1/12 of that policy every single month. So they already got a bunch of money probably in escrow to pay for that insurance. So you might just get by getting a policy and paying the first 3 months maybe. And then the insurance company will know that the bank's going to pay it after that. So it's all about the timing of the year. The bank is not going to write a check for insurance until they get a bill for the insurance from the insurance company. So if you pay for the first 3 months or the first 6 months, it's likely that they will be billing the escrow company for the next year's policy before you have to make another payment. I hope you understood what I said. I barely understand what I just said, but it sounded pretty good.
I think so too. I second that.
Okay, you take these things, Kate. You guys can't let things like this worry you. All right, you got an attorney doing the closing. They can tell you, help you what to do. I hope you got a mentor, one of our mentors, and you always got this form. You can always throw questions up on this. And if it's an emergency, tell us, I need this answered quickly. It'll come to me and I'll answer it by email. Or if I need to, I'll pick up the phone and call you. Yes, I really do that. Okay. All right. We're not going to love you and leave you in the morning. And I don't want you to make stupid mistakes that are easy to avoid with a little bit more knowledge.
All right, well, that's all we have for today.
That's it.
That was it.
I'm just looking here. You guys make a note. Let's see. What am I doing this month? June.
Next
Work
week.
for Equity. I'm recording a new Work for Equity course on June the 29th and the 30th. And it's only about 5 hours each day. Okay. And it's going to start at noon for all you Californians. You're welcome. That's noon our time. All right. Write that down. 29 and 30 is free. You do have to get signed up. If you're watching this today, you'll certainly get an email on it, but make yourself a note because, all the emails don't go through. And I don't think we're even taking registrations for that right now, but if not, it's going to be any minute. So you want to watch that. That's my favorite exit strategy. Getting houses, put lease option tenant buyers in there, let them do the work with their money and their labor and get almost retail price out of it. It's a great exit strategy. In fact, literally you'll make a lot more money with the Work for Equity than you will renovating one and putting a tenant buyer in there. So anyway, coming up, another free course. So with that said, I'll see you next week. Go out there and make a mess. Make a mess, clean it up. That's how you get smart. Bye.